Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to discuss another stock called Clover Health Investments. For short, it is CLOV, clov. And if you look at this particular chart, it's really frightening because if you want to know what is the meaning of falling knife, this is basically example of falling knife in a stock market. The price is actually dropping sharply down. Of course, today is kind of making some strong move upward, but we are not sure whether it can sustain the move up. So that's what basically we're going to analyze. What is the prediction for this particular falling knife stock? That's how I call it. So where can we see reversals? I mean, can there be any surprises to us? So this is what we're going to study in this particular video. So if you like it, if you are investing in this or thinking about investing in this particular counter, please stay tuned and watch the whole video. This is Shah&Co. Please like, share and subscribe the channel before we start our analysis. See you soon. Okay, so now we're going to begin our analysis. I'm going to divide the analysis into three parts. The first part is we're going to look at the big picture, the long term, and the long term time frame. With how is the stock doing? So basically, we're going to look at the power that is existent in this particular stock. Who's having the power? Is it the buyer or is it the seller? Who's having the power? Because the buyer or the seller who is having the power will decide the trend of this particular stock. So it's very important to know who is having the power, whether the buyer or the seller or neither of them. So that's what we need to look at. In the second part, I'm going to look at the market structures that is existent in this particular stock, Clover. So why is it important? Because at market structures, we can potentially see some reversals. So it's a very interesting point for us, especially when we are thinking about investing in this stock, or even if you are an investor currently stuck in the price and you may be praying very hard that it will stop the fall, right? So the market structures is very important to know. So that's what the second part we're going to discuss about. And then in the third part and the final part, we're going to look at if this particular stock is going to give any surprise, is there any room for surprises in this particular stock. So that's the third part. Okay, to understand the first part, which is about analyzing the power that is existent in this particular stock, Clover Health Investment, we need to change the time frame to a monthly or weekly or larger time frame. So currently I'm in the day chart, so I'm going to move to a weekly chart. Well, this particular stock only recently listed, so we don't have a lot of data. Okay, this is the enlarged weekly chart. So as you can see that it's actually moving on the up and down pattern. So first we need to know what is the exact pattern. Is it on a uptrend, downtrend, or is it a sideways chart? So to know that, we will connect the high and the highs, and then we connect the low to the lows. So I'm doing that right now. So I have connected the high to the high and the low to the low, and what we are seeing right now is an expanding kind of sideways. It's not a contracting sideways, but it's an expanding sideways. So anyway, we have confirmed that this particular chart is a sideways chart. When it makes the high keeps going higher and the low keeps going lower, then this is basically an expansionary kind of sideways pattern. Okay, so once we have understood the nature of this chart, which is sideways, so we can actually do a sideways power analysis. We're going to see who is having power. Why we have sideways in the first place? Why do we have a sideways pattern? Is because there is a power tussle between the buyers and the sellers. So when a sideways pattern happens, that means there's equilibrium in the power between the buyers and the sellers. both of them are equally powerful. So they cut, one is pulling up, one is pulling down, one is pulling up, one is pulling down. So neither of them won the market. So that's why the stock or the market is tend to be in a sideways pattern, both moving upside and also doing making a move to downside. So when can we break this particular sideways pattern is when one of the either the buyer or the seller win over the other opponent. So if the buyer has more power, then it's going to move upward or uptrend. But on the other hand, if the seller is having power, then the market is or the stock is going to go on the down move. So that's why it's very important for us to analyze what's the power we have in this particular stock. To do that, we need two loops for each of the analysis, both the buyer and the seller side. We need two loops. So right now I'm going to create a loop. Okay, so I'm going to connect the high point here. I just need two recent loops. Okay, this is one down move, and then we have another from the high to the low. So this creates one loop. Let's create one loop. Okay, and then we have from here to the low, which is somewhere around here. I think this will be the low, and then from here to the high, which is this one. Okay, so we have two loops, but these two loops is to analyze the power of the buyers. We also need another two loops to analyze the power of the sellers. Okay, so when we have this kind of pattern, when the sellers selling, buyers coming in, right? Sellers selling, buyers coming in, right? Okay, so these two loops is talking about the power of the buyers, because at the end the buyer is making higher move. So we need also two loops for the sellers to analyze the sellers. Currently it's still making a move on the downside. It's not yet completed, so we can't use that. So we can take this one loop, so this particular loop, making buyers making a buy, making higher highs, and then the sellers coming in to do a sell. So we have one loop here for the sellers. We need another loop for another seller. So because we need two loops to get to know whether who is having power. So I'm going to connect this to the low, which I would say is here. Okay, so from here to here, this is one seller, right? One seller loop. So we have sufficient loop here. We have two loops for the buyer, two loops for the sellers. Now we can do the analysis. So let's take our Fibonacci tool, retracement tool. Okay, I'm going to analyze the sellers first. So to analyze the seller, I'll take the low point here and go to the high point. Okay, what's the high you can reach? Okay, so from here to there, that's a high point. Then we see how it is retracing. So now the seller is coming in to sell. So I need to zoom in a bit. So it's a bit hard to read. So let me. Okay, now it's enough. Okay, so right now we can see that it has crossed 100%. It is not yet crossed 127. So it's roughly about 110. Okay, so we can take a note here, make a note here. So right now we have sellers. So I'm talking about sellers, the power of sellers. So right now in the first loop it is making 110% down move. Okay, so it's important for us to take notes, otherwise we will forget, right? Okay, then in the second loop, so we'll do similarly. So I will take the low here, we'll move it all the way to the high. So now we can see that the buyers buying, making high, and then the sellers coming in and pulling it down. So it managed to pull down beyond 140%. So we will just roughly estimate it to be 140. Okay, so what we will do is we'll go back and amend our description. So from 110 it moves to 140, 140% sell down. So we can conclude now. So with this move we can say that from the first loop it was sellers moving 110%. In the second loop sellers moving 140%. So the percentage is increased. So sellers having power. So we will conclude that sellers having power. That is about the sellers. Now next we're going to look at the buyers. Okay, so we need two curves or two loops for the buyers. So we already identified the two loops. So this one loop, that's another loop here, right? So we will look at the first loop. Okay, so now we're going to take from the high to the low, and then we will see 200%. Okay, so you can see that roughly they're making a high of almost 200% or actually a bit more. So just put it around 200%. Okay, so now I'll go amend the text. So now we're talking about the buyer. So now making 200% up move. Now we will see what about the second loop. So now we have a second move. Okay, now I'll take a Fibonacci tool again from the high here to the low, and I'm just expanding it a bit. So now you see the sellers pulling it down, then the buyers coming in to push it up to the price level of below 200. So it is like below 200, 190. So it's moving like 190. 290, it did not touch 200. So what can we conclude? We say that it was 200. The buyer sentiment was 200%, then moved down to 190. So buyers don't have power. Okay, don't have power. So looking at these two, sellers having power, buyers don't have power. So who won? Basically, we are predicting in the upcoming move, the sellers will have more power to sell down, because we found out the buyers don't have that much power, but the sellers having more power. Okay, so that is the conclusion for this first part. Okay, so the sellers gonna have more power. Okay, now we're gonna go to the next part. Before we move on, in the next part I'm going to discuss about price prediction to what low is going to go to. Okay, before we go to the next part, please help me to subscribe this channel and like if you so far like my analysis, and you're going to gain more knowledge and more techniques. You can use it in your investment analysis. So stay tuned for the next part. Okay, so now we are in the second part. So in this second part, mostly we're going to analyze about the market structure and a bit of prediction. So maybe we look at the prediction first. So just now we said that the sellers having more power, right? So it can go to what low? So that's what so at least we look at the theory, what the theory says about this. So according to the theory, this technique is called the arch technique. According to this theory, right, the sellers can push the price down all the way to the previous low. So now we see that the previous low was somewhere around here. So let me do a circle around it. So this was the previous low, right? So now we are expecting the price to move at least up to this level. That's the target. Okay, so that means this particular down move here is going to move all the way to this particular target point. This is the target basically. We are not definitely saying it's going to move to there, but that's the target. Okay, so can it not reach the target? Possible? It's possible. So now we're going to understand the market structures. So the market structures is going to help us to identify potential turning points. So the reversal may happen along the way anytime in between, right? But we overall sentiment wise, we are saying that it is on a down sentiment. It's going to move all the way to the price level of almost $6, almost $6.20 something, right? So that's the low price here, the previous low. Okay, it's going to move all the way to that low or even beyond that. That's possible as well. But before we go to that extent of projecting, so now I'm going to analyze market structures that's available in this particular stock or rather in this market, so that we can know potential reversals. So I'm going to erase off all the current remarks. So now we're going to do it fresh. I'm going to move to a shorter time frame, okay, because I need to understand the shorter time frame now. Okay, today the price is making a wonderful move up. Can this be a reversal? That's the question most of you will have in the mind. Is it making a reversal, or is it too early to say so? Well, for me, I will just wait and see first. We are not the big guys who can move the market, so we are the small guys. So small guys, we need to watch the market closely before we make our move. Okay, before we go to that analysis, that is the third part where I'm going to explain about surprises. Anyway, some of you may say this is a surprise move it's making, but just hold on. Okay, so now we'll try to understand the market structure. So I'll just want to have the full view here. Okay, what are the market structures we have here? So one is we can connect the high points here. So this is a good support resistance line because it passes through. You see, it passes through at this area. So it passes through this high and several highs here, and also it becomes a support here, and also becomes a resistance there. And unfortunately, the sell down here just went through, and it didn't stop in that resistance level we are expecting. So because the selling power was so strong that it just passed through it without any stop. But where's the next market structure we have? Because usually at these market structures the price will tend to stop, try to make a reversal because the buyers will come in. So here the sellers are right now very strong. You can see even the volume there is very strong for the sellers comparative to the previous, right? So right now the selling volume is very high, except for today where the price is making a move. That's exceptional. Okay, so now we're going to look at the other market structures we have here. Well, there's one strong market structure somewhere here, so there's a lot of points connecting it. So this could be one. Let me just put it be a bit more precise. Okay, so you can see that several supports are here as well as here, but here it managed to go down. Okay, and here it just passed through without stopping. And here is a bit of resistance there. There's a bit of resistance here. So we are expecting that this fall is at least make a stop somewhere around here. We are expecting it to stop somewhere around here and try to do a bit of correction to at least do a reversal or things like that. So this is one point to watch, what's happening around this region, because that's a market structure. And we also have a market structure. If it continue to fall down, then the other market structures we have somewhere around here. We have a lot of support points here, and also we have before that we also have here. This is the resistance. That's a resistance. 2 times we have one resistance here. There's another resistance here. Okay. So these are the other support levels we have if this price happen to continue the downfall. Okay, so we have several support points. So right now we are in the first support point, and we can see that the buyers are coming in, but we don't know how strong the buyer is going to be. We need to wait for several days because this is a falling knife. So usually we don't catch a falling knife because you're going to get hurt. So this is and we always see that this particular stock has got long tails here. We always have long tails. So this could be another long tail that is forming here. So we are not very sure yet. So we need to wait for the closing to get to know that. Okay. So these are the market structures we have here. I hope and these market structures, why is it important? Because it acts as a point where potential reversal may happen. Okay, so if it falls to every market structure, then it's going to reach our target, which is we mentioned in the previous part analysis. Okay, so in the next part analysis, I'm going to talk about what is there any room for surprises. Yes, there is actually. So just stay tuned and watch for the next. Before that, click that subscribe button. You're going to get more videos from me, analysis, and then you're going to learn a lot of new techniques from me. Okay, so okay guys, now we are on the last part, and this last part also interesting because we're going to look at if there's any room for surprises in this particular stock clover. Okay, so now I'm going to move back to weekly chart. In this weekly chart, we're going to look for several patterns, candlestick patterns. Okay, so now if you look at this particular chart, right, there is one long candle here. This is a bullish candle, right? So it's a long body. So this long body candle actually it can help us in identifying surprises. How is it possible is because what you need to look at right now, because the price moved up strongly and then now it's making a down move, and you have to plot a line. This is what you call the water line. So you got to plot a line at the low part of this body, the long body. So the price may continue to fall up to this particular water line, this particular line, and then it may tend to move up. Okay, this is another point where surprise reversal may happen. Okay, so you got to watch but if it did not make a turn up, but instead it continue to move down, then it's so sorry, it's going to hit the target that we said in the first part analysis. Okay, so far we have seen surprise that may happen. I hope this particular video has helped you in your decision making to buy or to sell this particular stock. And I also look at the fundamental of this stock. It's not very great. In fact, it's a loss-making company. So you have to be a bit cautious in trading this company, and always look at the support levels that or the market structures that I have shown you in the second part. So see if there is any move during that at that particular support, what you call the market structure line, because reversal potential may happen around them. But if it fall through, and then unfortunately it's going to go very low up to the target we are estimating. Okay, so that's my conclusion. So if you found interesting this particular analysis, keep your support to me, and please subscribe to the channel. Give you more analysis of other stocks, interesting stocks as well. See you soon in the next video.